Keep going.
Yeah, all right. Let's do it. No, we're good. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me for the next hour to help celebrate some subscriber winnings last night is our single entry and well-rested assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, Anders Lee scored 2 goals, so I just logged off, watched a little bit of Peaky Blinders, and went to sleep before 11 p.m. for the first time in 3 months. Slept straight until 9 o'clock. Apparently, when you get too much sleep, you feel worse because I'm exhausted this morning. It's already the afternoon, so I don't even know where I am.
Yeah, Josh is definitely on one. He decided to get more than 6 hours of sleep for once, and he's all discombobulated over there. So we're going to help him out a little bit as we get through this day. But before we get too much further, I see about 40 people watching. If you guys could throw a thumbs up for us, give us a like there. Really helps us look good for our bosses. Click the subscribe button. Help us grow this channel and keep these shows coming, not only for this sport, but for almost every sport out there on a regular basis. And click that bell if you want to get alerts when we do go live. So kind of alluded to it at the top of the show. We are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. I forgot to mention that as well. Wonderful sponsor, Yahoo. Make sure you head over there. We do have a little giveaway through Yahoo that we'll talk about a little later in the show. So yes, the winners last night. Hofbrau had a very good night. He took down the Tuesday 20 over on DK with over 200 points. That was worth 20K. He took down over on FanDuel as well, if I'm not mistaken. He said he had a mid 5-figure night on both sites. He just absolutely crushed. Hofbrau went with a Toronto power play stack, but he left off Andre Kasha. So he had Matthews and Tavares, and obviously Matthews had that monster night, 2 goals and assists with the shot bonus. Morgan Riley had a monster night, 4 shots, a couple blocks, 4 assists. So he had that Toronto stack. And then he went with San Jose 2, Hurdle, Barabanov, and Gregor. Now, you and I weren't on San Jose yesterday. Hofbrau was, so maybe he should be the one doing these shows. But one thing we should talk about with that San Jose line, that second line, was that they had struggled a lot through the year. And something pointed out to us in our Discord by our good friend, Mr. Corsi, was that Noah Gregor really seems to have turned that line around and to kind of not make them elite, but at least make them good, which is something they really hadn't been for most of the season. So maybe Hofbrau caught that before us, but that kind of changes the way we look at San Jose, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the way to do it is play him before the trends hit, and that's what Hofbrau did. He got rewarded. I remember 8 years ago, Jonathan Bales, when he was writing his books, he said that one of the best ways to make money in DFS is to be ahead of the trends. And that's something I look to do that's something that resonates with me still now. Like if I see a low owned line that I like in a really good spot, I'm probably going to play them because the trends haven't caught up with them yet. So, he had a great night, and that Sharks 2 line, we talked about it earlier too, Hurdle battled COVID. He didn't look like he had his legs completely under him. As more games and the season goes on, the healthier he gets, I think, I wouldn't say they're going to be great, but they're playable now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big change from earlier in the season when it was just do we throw in Hurdle with our San Jose 1 stacks or something like that? Or do we one off Hurdle? Now he actually has a playable line, obviously, because Hofbrau crushed with them last night. Aiden Hill and net, I will say, at least we were on Aiden Hill, so maybe we helped Hofbrau out a little bit there. Good for him, Mr. Hofbrau. I also see there are other people that had good nights as well. Scoops Cote showed up in chat with a quiet 7x. I think he finished second in the 20 max last night on DK. So congrats to him. And our boy Henry took down the Daily Dimes over on DraftKings as well. And it was more than just first place. It was like a first and a third and then another top 10 or something like that.
Like people say, oh, he's playing for 10 cents, doesn't matter. I am willing to wager that winning the dime time is harder than winning the 20 max.
Like winning the quarter arcade or something like that. We have 6,000 entrants, and a lot of people are trying different strategies and stuff like that down there. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So, and it's a good way to build your bank. I find, whether it's the nickels on FanDuel or the dime on DraftKings or whatever, if you want to get used to learning Fantasy Cruncher,
that's the place to do it.
Don't start with the $15 per entry, 150 max. Start with the quarter arcade, start with the dime, start with the nickels. That's how you get used to your Fantasy Cruncher settings. And then once you get used to that and you start to build your bankroll, and then you can move it up. But good for you, Henry, on taking down the dime. And I also see our good friend, Mr. G, had a couple top 10 finishes in the $20 last night. As per usual, some late hammers came through, but that's the way it kind of works, right? Late hammers helped Hofbrau, hurt Mr. G. Tonight, they could help Mr. G and hurt Hofbrau. That's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah. I
mean, Calle Yarncroc wasn't on the slate, so that's probably why he didn't win.
Yeah, I mean,
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, without Calle Yarncroc, he's just completely.
He's a lost puppy. Lost puppy.
Just completely lost as to what to do. So congrats to all the winners here last night. And I see in chat, our YouTube chat right now, and I see Cosmo says, I played dimes with a $5 bankroll, and he's moved that up to $250. That's if you get good with Fantasy Cruncher, you get good with your lineups, you get good with everything. That's how you can build a bankroll from basically nothing. And I think you don't need to start with $10,000 in your DK bankroll to get big. I think Hofbrau, the guy that won the 20K last night, is a good example of that. If I'm not mistaken, he started his DFS career a few years ago with $100 or $50 or something like that, and just started building through NFL, and now he plays across all sports. So you have to put the time into it. We're here to help you, but you have to put the time into it, and you have to make sure you don't lose all your money before you get accustomed to what you're doing. So congrats to all the winners last. I forgot to ask you, did you cash last night? How'd you do?
I went Nashville 1, Minnesota 1, so that was just quite a scene. Nashville with 5 goals, nothing from the top line. Yossi went off. Niehouse's boy Fabro went off. The only thing that I remember good from yesterday's show was my Joel Eriksson Ek call. That was about it.
Yeah, and I think that's bringing up Nashville is kind of a good thing to just elaborate on what we talk about here. One thing we talk about is line matching. And I talked about the line matching in that game in my Power Plays article yesterday, and how Detroit's top 6, the first line and second line, play at a much higher pace than their checking line. And the checking line obviously was going to go against the first line from Nashville. And that's why I wrote up Eeli Tolvanen in the Power Plays article, because, they were going to get the higher pace, less defensive matchups against Detroit 1 and 2. Tolvanen had a great night. Now, I played Tolvanen. Obviously, I didn't play the whole line. I wasn't playing Ryan Johansson last night. So anybody that did play that whole Nashville line, kudos to you. But that lineup matching is what got me onto Tolvanen in the first place. And it's those little things that you have to look for if you want to, kind of advance your DFS career. One final thing I want to talk about, because it was only a 4-game slate we have here today, we have lots of time to talk about them, is rest and tired players. Because, just for example, tonight we have New York. The Rangers are on a back-to-back. They're at home. They're going to be without Igor Shesterkin, who's injured, and Alexander Georgiev is either starting after having started last night in Chicago, or they're going to be playing an AHL goalie. Now, depending on what you're looking at, rest and tired stats will fluctuate, home and road, whether it's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days. I remember Travis Yost over at TSN a few years ago posting about rest and tired. The dogs are big Travis Yost fans, I guess. And what he wrote about was basically once you get too much rest, like 4, 5, 6 days, that actually works against you, at least defensively. And also intuitively, if you have no rest, like you're playing a back-to-back, it hampers you both offensively and defensively. Now, I bring this up because we have a subscriber called, I shouldn't say called, his name is Matt Niehaus. It's not called, like that's just his actual name, but he's been doing research on rest and tired that he's been kind enough to share with me. And I hadn't seen any research on rest and tired since Yost did that work at TSN a few years ago. So I thought this was very interesting. What he found basically was that the more rested you are, the worse you get offensively as well, particularly on the road. So a rested team on the road isn't necessarily great. I mean, rested like 3-4 days, not, 1 or 2. And at home, when you're, less rest, fewer goals for. So the Rangers can't really be expected to be better than normal tonight. And they're probably going to be a lot worse than normal, given that they're, it's a home back-to-back situation. But that's one thing I want to talk about. Whether you're at home or on the road, you're going to be worse offensively when you're on a back-to-back. And I think that's something we have to keep in mind. It's not a blanket statement. There are going to be games where back-to-back teams just absolutely nuke someone else. It's just something that applies in most situations. Is there something that you want to add here about rest and tired teams?
Well, a few seasons ago on medium to large size slates, if there was a back-to-back team on the road, I would just X them out. Be like, I didn't even want to deal with you. But then last year during all the COVID madness and all that, there was like 3-4 home game sets where like these teams are playing home and homes or road and roads, and it was just like the same matchups all season. So like they were playing each other 3 straight nights, and you saw that, yeah, the performance went down, but sometimes these teams just go crazy, go off. So coming into this season, I was more open to back-to-back on the roads, but where you get into trouble is when you have teams 3 and 4 nights, 4 and 7 nights, 5 and 8. Like 5 and 8 like is almost like, yeah, no thanks, like I'm going to stack against you, I don't care who you are, really. Like 5 and 8 getaway games, it's just a mess. But back-to-backs, like I know performance drops a little bit, but I think like honestly, like tonight, like yeah, the Rangers in a really bad matchup anyway, but like say they're in a good matchup, I don't think you should just be like, oh, they're back-to-back, I don't want to play them. I think you have to consider them. Where I run into trouble is, if it's more than back-to-back, 3 and 4, 4 and 7, 5 and 8, that's when I start really being like, you know what, this is a good spot. But they, especially if they're a veteran team, like, I don't know, if they're young and it's like an upcoming line, like Ducks won last night.
Yeah.
Like I'm more likely to play them on a back-to-back on the road just because they're all like 20, 21 years old. They're fresh. They're not 35 waking up with old creaky bones. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot of factors for me. If it's a veteran team, if it's a young team, if it's back-to-back on the road, back-to-back at home. But the biggest thing is, if it's 3 and 4, 4 and 7, 5 and 8, that's when I start really like taking a harder second look. Like I need to find a better matchup here.
Yeah, exactly. 5 and 7 is even something that happens a fair bit as well. We're going to move on. I just want to make note that playing back-to-back on the road, as you might expect, hurts a team a lot offensively, and even back-to-back at home can kind of hurt defensively as well. So it is definitely a factor. It's something to consider, but it's not the end-all be-all, as no hockey stat will ever be. All right, we do have to move it along because it is a 4-game slate. I see we're getting close to 100 people. If you guys could throw us a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. I did miss a super chat from Eric Hoffman himself, Hoffbrow, a $100 super chat. Thank you very much, Hoffbrow. That is incredibly generous of you. Thanks. He was the 20K winner on DK last night, won a lot more on FanDuel as well. He says, wouldn't have won last night without getting the Ekholm news in Discord early enough for me to recrunch. I had Ekholm in my main lineup and 20% in my 150. Being able to fully recrunch before lock was the key. And that's something one thing I will say about our Discord, we don't rip on each other and we provide a lot of news updates. You'll even see guys posting the same thing 2 or 3 times to make sure that nobody misses anything. I think it's a great spot to make sure that you can keep up on the news. So we're going to talk about Awesemo subscriptions a little bit later, but congrats again to Hoffbrow on your big night. Congrats to all the winners last night, and hopefully we can have some more winners tonight. Free premium tools and data up on the site. We have them almost every day, today being no exception. We have NBA ownership rankings and NHL top stacks, both up on the site for tonight. You'll hear us talk about the NHL top stacks tool in the show. If you want to check it out for yourself, if you're not a subscriber, just head on over to awesemo.com and check out our NHL top stacks, which is free on the site for today. All right, let's get to this first game. Philly, 2.8 implied goal total. They're going into New Jersey. The Devils have a 3.3 implied goal total. I honestly think, even if this were like an 8-game slate, I would probably say that there are 6 playable lines in this game. That it's a 4-game slate, I would say there are definitely 6 playable lines in this game. We have a 6 total, so obviously it's going to draw a lot of focus in terms of ownership, but maybe not as much as we think. So why don't you just take us through this game, Josh?
Yeah, and if you hear the dogs barking or you hear some loud banging, I got a plumber upstairs laying some pipe. So you can interpret that however you want. But anyway, getting to this
way
game.
To interpret that.
Yeah. Anyway, getting to the Devils here. So Mike Yeo, however you pronounce it, now the interim head coach of the Flyers, decided to move Giroux back to center, put Oscar Lindblom up on the top line, which I like. I just wish it was with Giroux, just because they'd be a way better defensive line. You know what? But it's still Couturier, and I would imagine Nico Hischier is going to get the Couturier matchup. They're coming in at 13-14%, fully correlated. They're very cheap, so I don't mind getting there. It's a 4-game slate. You have to, consider everything. And Couturier without Giroux, the defense impacts fall pretty steeply. So I think you can consider them. But you start going down the Devils lineup here, and you see the ownership drop off very starkly. And it is a 3.3 total on at home. So if you want to get away from that top line, you look at the second line, Andreas Janssen, Jack Hughes, Sharon Govich, they're coming in at 2%. And, I get it because there's not great power play correlation, but they're going to get the Giroux matchup. And Giroux is no longer an NHL center. He had a good game the first time he's at center, but defensively, he's much better as a winger right now. So I really like the Jack Hughes, Sharon Govich, Janssen line. Even if you want to drop down to that third line, they're getting a little bit of ownership, 6%. You want to do a Mercer, Tatar, Severson 3-man for a little secondary power play. I think that's fine. But I think on the Devil side, my favorite line, all things considered, is going to be that Janssen, Hughes, Sharon Govich matchup. And then on the Flyer side, I don't know, the lines are usable for sure. I just don't know if I'm going to full stack anything tonight. There are some pieces that I'd want to, take because, they're Colorado's super expensive. Vegas is pretty expensive. So if you're going to get into there, there's 2 mans that I think I would use. A Giroux Frost is only 7,300 for the 2 of them. Couturier Konechny is even reasonable at 9,300. If you want to add in Lindblom on that, I think that's perfectly fine. If I was going to full stack anything, it'd be that top line. Just from a price and matchup standpoint, and even that third line, Hayes Atkinson 2-man, that is just really cheap as well, 7,200. So there is a lot to like. In 1 to 3, I think I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on the Devil side, but in MME, this is a great game to target.
Yeah, I really do like this game. Obviously top to bottom on both sides. The one line I'm going to talk about specifically is the Hughes, Sharon Govich, Janssen line. And I want to talk about that line for a couple of reasons. One is that there's absolutely no correlation on that line. Hughes on one power play unit, Janssen on another, Sharon Govich on neither. For that reason, they're coming in. No, I wouldn't say for that reason. I think that's one of the reasons why they're coming in lower, the least owned of the 3 New Jersey lines. Now, Hughes and Sharon Govich have a history of success together. They were good together last year, and so far this year, 53% shot share together, 53% of the scoring chances while playing together. And I don't know how the matchup is going to go, whether they get the Hayes or the Giroux line. But like you said, Giroux at this stage of his career is not a good defensive center. And the Hayes-Atkinson duo has just been getting steamrolled since Kevin Hayes got back. I don't expect him to be this bad for the rest of the year, but that he's bad for the first half dozen games or so, with the injuries late to camp, not playing in camp and all that stuff, plus all his off season,
brutal
the off season tragedy, like, I hate to put this all on him, but we're talking about DFS here. I just think that the New Jersey second and third lines are both in great spots here. And I think Hughes and Sharangovich is where I'm going to go instead of the Mercer Tatar VC line. Now, the reason I'm only doing that is because I think they're going to come in a lot lower owned, the Hughes Sharangovich duo, because Mercer and Tatar obviously correlated on the power play. They're cheaper. There's a sample of them together this year of having success. But Hughes and Sharangovich, like I said, going back to last year, have been good together. They're coming in at 2%. Like, this line is coming in at 2% ownership at home with a 3.3 total on a 4-game slate. I don't know what else to say about a second line coming in at 2% ownership with a 3.3 total on a 4-game slate. Like, I just really love that Hughes, Sharangovich, and Johnsson line here tonight. 2-man them, 3-man them, do whatever you have to do. I do like that Tatar Mercer 2-man down on the third line as well. It's just an ownership play for me, but I do think it's a great matchup going into that Philly third line. And Philly takes a fair share of penalties as well. I mean, New Jersey, one of the most penalized team in the NHL, but the Flyers, not all that far behind, if I'm not mistaken, coming in just around the top 10. So inside the top 10, sorry. So I think that there's stuff to like on the second and third New Jersey lines. The top New Jersey line I have written up in my Power Plays article is fine as well, because I think Dougie Hamilton is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. So if I want to use Hamilton, I'd probably match him with the New Jersey top line. So honestly, I hate hedging, but I do like all three New Jersey lines here. I'll just say I'm probably personally playing Hughes and Sharangovich. On the Philly side, it's Couturier and Konechny for me. They do have a good sample together, both playing on the power play. Konechny's down to like 3,700 on DraftKings, like just way too cheap. And like I mentioned, New Jersey, one of the most penalized teams in the league, taking the third most penalties. So for me, it's I like all three New Jersey lines, but I'm probably going to be on the Hughes line. I like all three Philly lines, but I like the Couturier Konechny line the most because I suspect their power play prowess to come into play here tonight. On the blue line, Damon Severson is a guy that always comes up for me because he's typically good, and he's typically can put up good peripherals if he gets enough ice time. And I think he should get enough ice time here. So I like Severson. I dropped the impacts on Ty Smith in our chat earlier today. Ty Smith has been flat out like one of the worst defensemen in hockey this year. I don't know what's going on with him because he wasn't anywhere close to this bad last year. I think he's still fine if you need to save some money, but honestly, I'd rather just pay the extra for Severson. Like I mentioned, I love Dougie Hamilton here tonight. One of my favorite plays on the whole slate. Probably nothing for me on the Philly side other than maybe, Justin Braun now that he's under 3K. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe Ty Smith is bad because he's playing with PK Slewfoot band, but
I think that's part of it, but we'll see.
I think Severson's the guy if you can't get up to Dougie. I think Dougie's a great play as well. If he burned everybody a few games ago, so maybe you get him a little bit lower owned, but he's probably going to go pretty overlooked tonight with Colorado and Vegas on the slate.
What do you think of 74 Carter Hart?
Okay.
I used him the other night at around that price. I think I'm going to go back to it.
I'll just say I don't think it's no slate is a good goalie slate, but this feels like a terrible goalie slate.
Yeah, I think I'd rather play Blackwood, but 8,000 at 27%. Not that goalie ownership matters, but I don't know. I have shot line concerns about the Flyers.
Yeah,
so far so good.
That is a concern with them. Absolutely. All right. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Discord, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. If you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can take advantage of the promo code we have for this show, which is NHL Strategy Show, all capital letters, all one word. That's NHL Strategy Show for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can find the link to activate this coupon in the description of the video below. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. That's one thing I would probably say to anybody that's watching this that's not a subscriber. I understand if you don't want to spend, hundreds of dollars on a DFS subscription. It's the holidays, money's tight for people and all that. $3.95 for an NHL Plus weekly pass. $4. It'll get you in the Discord. It'll show you what we're all about. If you don't like it, you're out a cup of coffee. I like Hofbrau said, I think even just the Discord alone is worth the $4 for a week.
The holidays are coming up too. I want to talk to some of the big bosses in here. I want to give away a couple memberships on the show, even if I have to pay for you guys. You guys have been awesome so far this season. We're getting over 100 to 200 live every day. Our views are up from last season. So holidays are coming up. Hopefully we can give away some memberships to people who haven't been an Awesemo member yet. So we're going to talk about that. Holidays coming up. So hopefully we can have a giveaway.
Yeah. Josh has been champing at the bit for like a month now to give away some free subscriptions. Just genuinely one of the nicest guys I've ever met. A true pleasure to podcast with you, Josh.
Oh, thank you.
Let's move along to the next game. Colorado, 3.4 implied goal total. They're going into New York. The Rangers have a 2.7 implied goal total. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Rangers are on a back-to-back. We don't know what's going to happen with the goaltending. It's either Alexander Georgiev on a back-to-back, or they're going to call up Huska from the AHL. I don't think either situation is necessarily appealing. Back-to-backs generally aren't good for goalies, and obviously Huska in the AHL could be in very tough against Colorado. But I think maybe the Rangers get overlooked for that reason. Also, it's only a 2.7 total, but they are at home, so I think they are worth talking about. What do you like in this game, Josh?
Yeah, my phone just blew up saying Jake Gensel just went from healthy to out. So hopefully it has to be like a COVID protocol thing, because I don't think he got injured in the last game. But anyway, Rangers have the best record in hockey right now from a winning percentage standpoint, which is insane to me. They don't have any right wingers. They're awful 5-on-5. Igor's hurt.
Can I just cut you off for 1 second? I think Dryden Hunt might have saved the New York Rangers season, and I mean that. Because he stabilized with Kakko in him in that top six. He stabilized that top six, and that it wasn't a stable top six until he got there.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a stable one if Drury didn't trade Pavel Buchnevich, but that's for another time. That's for another time. Go out and get Uncle Hot Dog Phil Kessel, for nothing. Put him there. He actually would probably fit pretty decently on that line. But anyway, I don't know if I want to use the Rangers one tonight, like in 1-3 going into the McKinnon matchup, especially around 10%. It's just, in MME, you don't want to, X out top lines. That's probably a bad strategy. It does concern me in 1-3 getting that much ownership in a tough matchup. Where I would look is probably the Strome Panarin. The thing is, like with Gallant, the top six gets about 50-50 on each of the other top six lines. They don't hard match. You'll see Zibanejad take the opening face-off against McKinnon. But then later in the game, he's going to send out Strome against McKinnon. And, you're going to see 50-50 of each of those top two lines. Now, the better line to me is that second line. Zibanejad has not looked good so far this season. Kreider has looked great. He has 17 goals this season, which is good for him. Capo Caco has definitely helped from a defensive impact standpoint. But this is DFS. We don't give a crap about defense. So for me, I think I'm going to go to Strome Panarin. They're cheaper. They're going to, they'll get some time against the Kadri Burakovsky and the Shushkin line, which has not been as good as they were last year. And really, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to preface this with, I think you can game stack here because Colorado is super expensive and you're going to need a couple of cheap players. And that third line of the Rangers, Hito Lafreniere, Gauthier, however you pronounce it, Julian J, or G. I don't even know my alphabet right now. super cheap. Lafreniere is min price. Heedle's 3,100. They're both on the second power play. And that third line of Colorado, not very good. Their shot share is around 45%. And the thing with that Rangers third line is, yeah, they're so cheap because they couldn't hit water if they fell into the Pacific Ocean. But like they're generating so many chances. Like eventually, on accident, one of those is going to go in, and it's going to be tonight. So I like Rangers 3 with like a Colorado power play stack.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Sorry, go ahead.
And then on the Colorado side, like, listen, I tried messing around with the Colorado power play stack. It's not possible. Like, it's just not possible. No matter what you do, you're going to have to leave someone off. Because McKinnon's 9K, Rantanen's 8,600, Landeskog's 6,800, and Makar's still, his price has come down, but he's still 7,300. And the problem is Kadri, because normally with the power play stack, Kadri's like 4,300. He's 6,900, which is a nice price. But I don't know, what you want to do, like, to get some power play. I think you have to stick to like 3-mans here if you want to do power play stacking. I think you go McKinnon, Rantanen, Kadri, or McKinnon, Landeskog, Makar, something like that. It's just really hard to get a power play stack. And obviously, if you want to go full Colorado 1, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, their ownership on a 4-game slate is surprisingly not as high as I thought it was going to be, especially because, yeah, the Rangers are quote unquote the best team in the NHL, but it's either going to be Georgiev on a back-to-back, who is not Igor, or Adam Huska, who wouldn't even have been called up if Keith Kincaid was healthy. So he's really like the Rangers' 4th or 5th goalie. So it could be a scene tonight for the Rangers. So I really like Colorado here, especially the power play stack. You want to go to that second line, that's fine. Like, there's no defensive matchups on the Rangers that are going to, scare me away. That top line is going to see a bunch of Fox, which is fine, but after you get past Fox, like, Trouba's okay, but like, he's not a great defensive player. So there's no matchups on the Rangers side that are going to concern me. So I really like Colorado 1, Colorado power play. You can go to Colorado 2 here. And on the Rangers side, honestly, again, Rangers 3 is my favorite spot on the Rangers.
Yeah. I just want to talk about Rangers 3, believe it or not, first. You talk about how they're generating chances, they're just not scoring. 64 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 36 scoring chances per 60 minutes, 3.5 expected goals per 60 minutes. They're scoring 1.4 goals per 60 minutes. They're shooting 3.5%. Team players generally will never, and I mean never, ever, ever have an on-ice shooting percentage under 6% for a season, which means that 3.5%, even if they're bad for the rest of the year, will double. Like, they are gonna have to break out eventually. It's just, I don't want to say a statistical certainty, but it's very, very likely. So I think that Colorado's power play with New York Rangers 3-game stack is very viable here. I think Colorado Josh stacking is very viable here. Top line plus third line or something like that, or a couple pieces on the top line, a couple pieces on the second line, and a defenseman, whatever you want to do there. I think both those things are very much in play. It's, you mentioned that Colorado third line, 41% shot share, 45% of the scoring chances since being assembled. That's not very good. The second line is just racing up and down the ice, trading scoring chances. So I think Rangers 2 and 3 are my favorite lines here. Personally, I think the way I'm building, I'll probably get to more Rangers 3 because I do like some of the expensive stacks here tonight. I also think one way to get a little bit different if you're worried about duping and all that is just to play Devin Toews instead of Makar. Don't get me wrong, Makar is probably the best defenseman in the NHL. Devin Toews is still getting more ice time than him over the last 4 or 5 games or something like that. Any defenseman playing 24 or 25 minutes for the Colorado Avalanche warrants a lot of consideration in GPPs. I don't care what your line of construction is like. So you can actually get to a reasonable, McKinnon, Landeskog, Taves build and still have money left over for another decent stack without dumpster diving. So you can do that. I just think I want a full stack the Colorado top line here tonight. Not worried about, like you said, not worried about the top line match from the Rangers, not worried about the goaltending. The Rangers penalty kill, fine, but not great. And fine's probably not going to be enough against this Colorado.
Well, it's fine because of Igor, and Igor ain't here.
Yeah, Igor ain't here is right. So And not to mention, Colorado draws the most power plays of any team in the league. So, they get 4 or 5 power plays here against a 4th string AHL goalie.
And it's Rangers are back-to-backs. They might be even a little bit more sloppy, a little tired, be more likely to take some penalties here.
Yeah, exactly. So I do love Colorado here tonight. Obviously, they have the highest implied goal total, but I think, Josh stacking Colorado, which is 6 players from the team on DraftKings, game stacking Colorado 1 and Colorado 3 or something like that is perfectly fine as well. On the Rangers side, like I said, I like the second and third lines. I'll probably end up on the third line the most. On the blue line, as I mentioned, Cale Makar playing less than Devin Toews of late. Obviously, Makar is super elite and gets the power play 1 minute, so that's why you see the difference in price. But I do like Toews. If you're not playing Colorado here tonight, I do think he makes sense as a one-off. They could have a 3-1, 4-1 win where he gets in on a few goals or something like that, something like Morgan Rielly did last night. That makes sense to me. On the Rangers side, I wrote up Jacob Trouba because I do think there's a chance he gets hit by like 8 shots here tonight, because Colorado is a shot-happy team. Anybody else stick out to you?
Yeah, if you're looking for like super cheap to pair with Lafreniere or Hedel, I think Nils Lundqvist makes some sense. Min price. His ice time is a bit of concern, but he's on power play 2 with them. If you like that power play 2 correlation, if you can't get up to Trouba, I think Toews, Girard, Makar all make sense. Obviously, it's hard to fit Colorado one with Makar, so I do like the Toews call going down to him. He just never leaves the ice.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's just always there. And you absolutely love those kind of guys on a short slate like this. All right. We have as I mentioned, we are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy for this NFL season to bring you an offer that is almost too good to be true. Thanks to our partnership with Yahoo, we have an exclusive deal that gets you 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's right, 2 free months, not 1 free month, as had been the case. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link in the video description below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access or if you want to play right away, email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you set up right away. Just to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. If you're already a Yahoo user, you won't be eligible for this promo. Once you've signed up, you can claim $10 of free contest entry credit via the Yahoo 10 link in the description below, and you can use that to enter even more contests. With your 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you will have access to our tools and projections specifically designed for Yahoo to help you win big. Take advantage and join today. Honestly, that's several hundreds of dollars worth just for a deposit on Yahoo. So if you're a new user, there's no reason not to sign up, play a couple paid contests and get two free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum out of it. It is just a great, great deal we have going on. Thank you very much to Yahoo for being good to us. All right, let's get to this next game. Boston, 3.1 implied goal total. They're going into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 2.5 implied goal total. Want to mention Boston had an optional skate today. A bunch of guys didn't hit the ice. That could be a concern because this is an older team, but because they're an older team, I'd expect some of their players to not skate every day anyway. So not super concerned about the Boston lineup. Just keep an eye out for information. And as I mentioned, our Discord will be full of lineup information through the rest of the day. All right. I wrote up Craig Smith in the Power Plays article. I think people are going to be on Boston 1 here as well, but I do think there might be something on the Vancouver side. So what do you think of this game, Josh?
Yeah, the nose is back tonight, right?
Yeah, he's back on the top line. Brad Marchand, top line for Boston.
Pouring out for Taylor Hall because, man, when he was up there, their numbers started off bad, but whoo, did they turn around. But, the nose is back. You're going to be getting the Horvat, Pearson, Hoglander matchup. And for Vancouver, that is the shutdown line. And that line defensively with Hoglander, with Horvat actually isn't bad. I'd say they're about league average, which is better than you can say for half the league. So I think, all things being equal, I'd rather play Colorado one tonight. Just because I think Boston's going to be higher owned because they're cheaper. Vancouver has been absolutely terrible this season, but Bruce Boudreau did put back Hoglander with Horvat, and that line at least can hold their own on the defensive end. Demko, pretty good goalie. Go Team USA. But so listen, I'm never going to tell you no to fully correlate Boston one. Like, there are some issues that I have with them. Sometimes their ice time is a bit wonky. Like, if they get out to elites, they're playing like 16, 17 minutes. And I don't know if I want to pay like $22K for 17 minutes. McKinnon is going to play his 20. It could be like 10-1 going into the third period. He's going to get his 20 minutes. So, like, that does concern me a little bit with Boston one here. I really do like Boston two, though. Hall's price barely moved, being up on Boston one all that time. So that line is super cheap. Yeah, they're fully correlated. Like, I don't know if Boston power play 2 really matters. Like, Boston, the top power play hogs most of the time there. But Craig Smith, 2,900. Charlie Coyle, 3,500. Taylor Hall, 4,600. Very good filler. They're going to get, Pedersen, or they're going to get JT Miller. And those lines aren't great defensively. The blue line for, Vancouver, not great. So, I think that is an exploitable matchup here. And these high totals, these high ownership, high total games, you start going down the lineup like we always talk about to get some lower ownership. Like, you can do Colorado 1, Boston 2. You might have to squeeze in, some cheap defensemen, but you can do it. And then I see, Nick Foligno, 2,600 power play 1. And it makes me want to just like throw myself down a flight of stairs. But like, if you're looking for a top power play guy to donk and assist, like it like hit off his face and goes right to Pasternak or puts it in, like Nick Foligno at 2,600 is an interesting play. One off, just if you're trying to like jam in as much Colorado as you can, or jam in Vegas and another expensive line or whatever. So, like, as much as I hate saying that I would consider using Foligno tonight, it's a 4-game slate. He's almost been priced. He's on the top power play. So if you need to do it, you do it. I think I'd rather play Lafreniere or Hedel, but that's just me. On the Vancouver side, I think, I want to use the Miller Besser 2-man. They're just going to see the better matchups. Like the Horvat seeing Bergeron, I'm out. Boston 2 has been okay. Like, I think they're going to see, I'm not sure. Is Pedersen going to see the Coyle matchup, or are they going to see the third line?
That's the thing. I don't know how the line matching is going to go because, Bruce Boudreau's only had one home game against, or with the Vancouver Canucks. In the one home game, I did notice what they were doing was sending Horvat out against the top line, like you said, but they were putting Miller and Besser out, not exclusively, but often against the second line, and then Pedersen and Garland a fair bit against the third line. Like, it seems like they want to stick with Pedersen and Garland against third lines, which is what the previous coaching staff had done. So I think that's the way it's going to go. But again, we only have one game sample to go off of, and that's not enough. Yeah.
So, like, going off that one game, if they're going to try to get Pedersen the better matchups, I do like the second and third lines, but if they're going to get the Pedersen the better matchups, that line is super cheap. Pedersen, Garland, Pud, Colson, they're 11-7? No, 11-1 to full stack. They're fully correlated on the power play. Not that, the thing is, like, Swayman's not great. I'm not a big Swayman guy. Cliffy size. We'll get to Cliffy's thoughts in a second.
Yeah.
That line is just super cheap, coming in at like 7-8%. I think you can play him. I'm not super high on the Canucks tonight. If you want to use the Miller Besser 2-man, I think that's fine. But for me, like, Boston 1, MME for sure. 1-3, definitely got to consider them. But I think all in all things considered, my favorite line in this game is Boston 2.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the Boston ice time, because that's the one thing that really concerns me with using them. If you look at Patrice Bergeron's last 10 games, you'll see 21, 20, 19. Yeah, okay. You also see 14, 14, 15, 16. So it's like, is he going to play 20 or 21, or is he going to play 14 or 15? And that's where, like, if I was playing one lineup, where I'm probably only going to play one lineup tonight, like I'm not going to play Boston 1, just because I don't want a chance that this is going to be the game that they decide, they get out to a 2-0 lead, and today's the day that Bergeron plays 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So, like, if I was playing, 20 max, 150, definitely I would absolutely have them in. I want to talk about Boston too, as you mentioned, because I did mention Craig Smith in my Power Plays article. It's up on Awesemo.com, free to read. Josh does usually does sometimes does one a week. Bots does a couple. I do a few. Usually Power Plays article up every day except for Sunday. When I'm talking about Craig Smith, when Taylor Hall is his line mate, Boston generates 39% more shots and 18% more scoring chances. It's just night and day with having Taylor Hall on the other wing. So, like, I agree with you on that Boston 2 call. I do like a 2-man of, like, just Hall and Smith, or, if you just want a one-off Smith or something like that, I think that's fine. I like Pettersson and Garland in this game. I'm with you on that line. I think you can leave Paul Colson off if you want. He's just a shot bot. He's the Luke Cunnin of that line. Let's put it that way. So if you want to leave him off, I think that's fine. But over the last, handful of games, like 3 weeks, that Garland Pettersson, because they have been getting depth matchups, 60% expected goal share, 55% of the shot share over their last 3 weeks. They're getting the third. They're probably going to get the third and fourth lines from Boston. I think Pettersson and Garland makes a nice sneaky spot. Definitely a little 2-man here. Sneak him in with Jack Hughes if you want for some additional power play exposure. I know it's tough to get excited about Vancouver playing Boston in a 2.5 total, but we only have 4 games to work from here, and they have the same total Dallas does. So we definitely have to consider them. If anything out of this game for me, it's Pettersson and Garland. Garland is just shooting the lights out, well over 20 shot attempts per 60 minutes over the last month. So that's the 2-man I like here from Vancouver. So what I like out of this game is Pettersson and Garland and Paul Colson. I like the Boston second line. Obviously, if you want to play Boston top line, I will not say no. It's just I worry about inconsistent ice time when I'm going to be playing 1 or 2 lineups. On the blue line, if you want to play Charlie McAvoy in your Boston stacks, that's fine. But it seems like Brandon Carlo is the only one really shooting and blocking amongst the Boston defensemen. So Brandon Carlo sticks out for me there. Is it Travis Slaminik night again?
Yeah, until he gets above 3,500 it is. And I see in our YouTube chat, Izzy says Bruins are playing the Oilers tomorrow night. So makes sense to limit the top line's minute. He's going to have to go against McDavid for the most part tomorrow. So that is another concern about Boston 1. But yes, Slaminik season is still here. It's really about it. If you want to correlate Hughes, I think that's fine. I'm not going to one-off Quinn Hughes. Travis Hamonic makes sense. Brandon Carlo, Charlie McAvoy, if you want to correlate.
Yeah, I'll just say Slaminik. I'm going to stay with that. And yeah, that's a good point, pointing out the Oilers, because I doubt they're going to want to play Pasternak and Marchand 23 minutes tonight and have to do the same thing again tomorrow night. We have an Awesemo Hall of Fame here. And if you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, where we celebrate all of our subscribers, this is how you can do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, and you tweet the wins to the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. That's Awesemo HOF on Twitter. You can win a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum as you do it. Now, Hoffbrow, I don't know if there's 5,000 contestants. I don't think it didn't reach 5,000 contestants yesterday. It was at 4,000, or was it? What was it? Yeah, it was 5,500 contestants yesterday in the $20 special.
I'm pulling it up right now.
And so Hoffbrow probably would have got in to the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You see 800 Eddie taking down 100K from NBA a few days ago. Yeah.
5,882.
There you go. So Hoffbrow, you are in the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You were there anyway. CJ Beast taking down, that looks like a fantasy football ticket, 62K to first place. Good for you, CJ Beast. That's a great day. I see a second place from T Scans 13 for 35K, but you don't need to win 5 figures here to get to celebrate. We love celebrating the small wins as well. You see Blank_FU says, got a little bankroll booster last night in the FanDuel 25-cent fadeaway, won 25 or $250. That'll get you in the Awesemo Hall of Fame as well. And then you see, looks like Yahoo, second out of 40,000 players for 50K NFL this past weekend as well. So congrats to James T, 24.99. We have winners. You see how to get to the Awesemo Hall of Fame on your screen. We want to celebrate you. Let us know. Send in your screenshots to the Awesemo Hoff account. All right. We got one game left. Want to mention we do have the No House Advantage NFL show coming up an hour after we're done. And then at 4:45 Eastern, you have the NBA Deeper Dive with Alex and Adam, followed by the Live Before Lock with Greg and Eric. Final game, Dallas 2.5 implied goal total. They're going into Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.0 implied goal total. I wrote about Rope Hintz in the PP article. I think he makes sense as part of a stack or as a one-off here tonight. I probably won't be going too heavy into Dallas myself. William Karlsson, only 3,200 for Vegas too. What do you like in this game, Josh?
Yeah. Normally I'd be off Dallas one here. They're going to get the Stevenson Stone Pacioretty matchup. Couple factors why I like Dallas one tonight. One, it's because, since Pacioretty and Stone came back, the defensive impacts have not been as good as they were last year. They have been getting better over the past couple days, or past couple games, excuse me. But, they still can be had. They're not the elite line they were yet from last year. Two, the top line fully correlated is coming in at 5-6%. The top stacks tool is free today, I believe. And if you look at that, Dallas one has the best leverage on the slate. It's a 4-game slate. You look for some leverage to get a little bit different. So I think, Dallas one definitely in play today for me. You want to go down to that second line. Ben Radulov, Jamie Benn has been better. That they're coming in at 3-4%. They're going to get, the Karlsson matchup, which, has been, Karlsson's been out for a long, long time. So, you like to take advantage of guys just coming back from injury. So Ben Radulov makes some sense as 2-man. It's only 7,400 for the two of them. And then on the Vegas side, again, I like Vegas one here. I wouldn't game stack top line against top line. It's just not something you should do. But, Vegas one still too cheap. You can't fit them in with, the Bostons or the Colorados of the world. But in lineups where you fade them, I think, Vegas one makes some sense here. And then Vegas two, I always am off them because they're over-owned. And on a 4-game slate where William Karlsson's only 3,200, their ownership's in check. I really like that Vegas second line tonight. And then even going down, that third line of Janmark, Roy, and Dadonov, they're going to get some bottom 6 matchups. Yeah, Radek Faska's down there, but he's with Tanner Kiro and Tyler Seguin, who just defensively at this point, you're just not the play. So I really like, Roy Dadonov 2-man. It's a way to get a little bit different from, game sacking Colorado and the Rangers. So Roy Dadonov, and Dadonov gets top power play time. He's 3,300. Roy has been really good this season on the second line when Karlsson was out, but Janmark and Dadonov, yeah, they're aging at this point in their career, but they're still very good offensive players for, bottom 6. So Roy Dadonov, another 2-man that I think you can deploy tonight, or you want to go Janmark, Dadonov, Roy, Janmark. I think it's fine. I want to include Dadonov just because he gets the top power play time.
Yeah, I'm very glad you mentioned that Vegas third line because I was looking at their numbers earlier. They haven't played a lot together because of all the injuries. Nick Roy was the second line center. Dadonov's been on the top line. Janmark's been in and out of the lineup, what have you. But if you look at the combinations of those three, the duo combinations between those three players, every single combination has over 60 shot attempts per 60 minutes and over 3 expected goals per 60 minutes. I think that Vegas third line is right up there next to that Rangers third line for me on this slate. I think, if you want to fit in your Colorado one, that's absolutely one of the spots that you can go. Have their ownership in check, coming in at about 2%, perfectly fine. And especially where you mentioned Dadonov getting those power play minutes coming in cheap. I really, really like that that Vegas third line as a filler. the Dallas top line for me is still in play. They're coming in very reasonably owned, 5 to 6% for a perfectly correlated top line, facing a Vegas team that, let's face it, starting to look a bit better, but haven't looked themselves quite yet. I don't know if I'm going to get there in my one lineup, but if I was definitely playing 20, I would absolutely have some of that Dallas top line here tonight. But I think this is a Vegas game for me. And for me personally, I like that Vegas third line a lot here tonight. But as you said, if that Vegas second line, if their ownership stays in check, there's no reason not to love that line tonight here as well. All right, we got to get out of here. We're starting to run over real quick. Just want to talk about our hat trick picks and our goalies. I'm going to ask you for yours. I'm going what seems like a little bit off the board for my hat trick pick. I'm going Jack Hughes for my hat trick pick tonight, with Robin Leonard and Thatcher Demko as my favorite goalies. Who do you like, Josh?
Yeah, I like both those goalies. And road goalie I think I can get behind a little bit is Carter Hart, which is a bit scary, and Darcy Kemper. I know Darcy Kemper has been great, but the Rangers, there is shot buying concern with the Rangers because I almost dropped 86 F-bombs. They're awful 5-on-5. But, Kemper in play. My hat trick pick, I think I'm going to go off the board a little bit here too. I'm going to go Connor Garland.
Ooh, I like it. There we go. Connor Garland. You know what? You can't see it, but I actually had Connor Garland written in, and I scratched it out for Jack Hughes. So Jack Hughes, Connor Garland are your two hat trick picks here for tonight. You have the No House Advantage NFL show coming up in about an hour. We will be back tomorrow for Friday slate. For Mike, the producer, for Josh, our single entry assassin, I'm Mike Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.